Thank you for coming out tonight. My name is Bryce, Randall, running for District 2 Supervisor. Before I start, and I'm sure Chris will agree with this, we're having signs disappear and torn down and put in places where they're not supposed to be. Please don't do that. You're not helping either candidate. Just let's leave the signs alone and behave ourselves. Karen and I, is my wife here yet? She's coming, but anyway, Karen and I bought property up in West Point 12 years ago. We were weekenders until 3 years ago. We moved up full time. I grew up in Idaho on a dairy farm, learning to work hard, get up every morning and go after an unending task. Learned to be innovative, learned to work hard and do whatever it took to get the job done. I graduated from Brigham Young University with a degree in design engineering technology. Worked in the computer industry doing the physical design of computer chips for 27 years. One of the companies I worked for a couple of startup companies. The last one was a company called NVIDIA. We did graphics processor chips. We went from 60 employees when I joined. I was the first one in the company that did my job, and they recruited me to build my group up. In 11 years, we went from 60 employees to almost 6,000. We were doing almost $3 billion a year in business. I have a lot of experience in management, hiring, firing, doing what it takes to get things done. 3 years ago, roughly 3 years ago, we bought the West Point Trading Post, moved up here full time. So I'm a small business owner in Calaveras County. I know what it takes to open a business here in Calaveras County, some of the frustrations that go with that. I know what it takes to meet payroll. I know the kind of taxes we have to pay in the state and the county and all the fees involved. One of the main reasons I jumped into the race was getting to know my customers and then watching so many of them lose their jobs and lose their homes. Before I bought this store, I went down and studied, did some research on the store, sat there from 6 to 8 in the morning and counted cars going past the store, heading to Amador County for work. From 6 to 8 every morning that I sat there, there was a car a minute leaving West Point, heading towards Amador County. I think that's sad. If you want to talk green, let's keep our people home so they're not out driving on the roads. We'll get into more of that later, but I'm happy to be here. I know I'm a newcomer to the county, but I'm all here. My home is here, my family is here. Everything we own is here. We're totally invested, and we should have moved up here a long time ago. All of us have moved up here sometime or the other. Anyway, thanks.
Okay, I'm Chris Wright. I'm running for Supervisor, District 2, and forgive the shouting. I want to make sure everybody can hear. I grew up here in Calaveras County. There's an echo happening.
Yeah.
What's that?
Yeah, don't.
It's too close or too far? So I grew up here in Calaveras County. My family has owned property here in Calaveras for 4 generations. Grew up here hiking, hunting, fishing, and I spent a lot of time in this very hall during things like Halloween carnivals. But really enough about me. This is hosted by the Chamber of Commerce, and I'd like to say thank you very much for hosting. I'd like to thank Bryce for being here. I'd like to thank all of you for being here. All right. Thanks, Mike. And we're talking about the economy now, and I have there's a lot of work that needs to be done, and I have a lot of ideas on how to get that done. First of all, let's start off with tourism. Tourism brings in $150 million into our county each year, and we have a rich tradition here with our historic communities, with our rivers, with our open space. We have a lot of opportunity to build on our tourism. Just looking across the street at the Hotel Leger, many of us in this room helped to renovate the hotel the last couple of weeks. Just down the road is the Mokelumne River, which I've worked for many years to keep open access and protect the Mokelumne for economic development here. We now have the opportunity to combine the marketing that's gone on over in Angels Camp with the Chamber of Commerce's help to help market Mokelumne Hill. Now we have the hotel, we have the petroglyph gallery, we have the Mokelumne River with rafting opportunity from oars coming in. This is how you build the tourist economy here. But it's more than just tourism. We need to rebuild our rural economy around timber. I've been working in the timber field for my entire life. My property up in Calaveras County, I went out with my dad. He had a small sawmill, and we went out and cut lumber. And that opportunity is not only for the private landowner, but we can rebuild our rural economy around it. I've been fortunate enough to sit on the CHIPS board since 2008. And the idea around the CHIPS board is that you take unemployed workers in the Blue Mountain West Point community area, train them in the woods, thin the woods, take that material, and you put it to work, you add value to it, and then you turn that into product, and you start to rebuild our rural forest economy. Now, we have the Wilseyville mill site. I think Mike DeLorda was probably the last person in the county to work at the Wilseyville mill site. But we're working with Bob Noble and a lot of contractors up there to really get that going again. Another thing I'd like to mention is the work. There's a lot of manufacturing potential here. And we can really rebuild that by bringing in and collective. Well, yeah, I need another minute because of the mic.
Sorry.
Is that okay?
15 seconds.
How about Thursday?
You're losing time.
Okay. So anyway, the idea with manufacturing is we have a great chance with Boeing coming in here, and Steve Walensky in this very room was talking about this last week, putting together the 21 different machinists out there collectively working with Boeing to build an actual plant here in Calaveras County. And those are only 3 of the ideas that I have, and I ran out of my 3 minutes.
Okay, first question is from the chamber members. Please describe your business experience in Calaveras County and how you think that experience will help you lead Calaveras County to a better economy. Chris, do you want to start this? No, Chris, please start this.
Okay.
We're just going to go back.
Oh, okay, cool.
Okay, business experience in Calaveras County. Well, I've been executive director for the Foothill Conservancy for the last 7 years. And this is a non-profit organization. But don't confuse the word non-profit with it not being a business. I have to do everything a business owner has to do. I have to meet payroll. I have to hire and fire employees. I have to work on complex contracts and contractors. I even sell t-shirts and other merchandise. So all of that is a small business. And the great thing about it is it also provides experience for doing stuff like being supervisor. Because not only are we meeting payroll, not only are we keeping and paying the rent, we also are balancing our budget, and we're doing good work for the community. We're providing a public service, such as helping to rebuild the rural economy up around the CHIPS program, such as working to save the Mokelumne River from East Bay mud coming in and damming it, such as working on the general plan update process here in Calaveras County. Those are all things that the nonprofit does within the business structure of a nonprofit. So there's a lot of experience that I think will be very useful being supervisor that goes above and beyond just being an individual business owner. Thank you.
Chris is trying to pull a lot of mileage out of the Foothill Conservancy and the CHIPS program. If you talk with the number of supervisors over in Amador County and some of the business owners over there, they'll tell you how they've had to fight against the Foothill Conservancy to get things done over there. Remember, the CHIPS board said in an 18-month stretch, Chris showed up 5 times and was a non-participant. So let's tell the truth. I opened our business in March of 09 here in West Point. It took us months to get through all the permit process with the county and the state, back and forth between San Andreas and Sacramento, over and over and over. It's frustrating. We need to do a one-stop shopping list when we're trying to open businesses. We opened our store, cleaned it up, refurbished it, restocked it. We have 6 people working there now, so we brought business into West Point. The gas station in West Point changed hands, and Cozy Cabin moved up to the top. So if you come up to West Point now, you'll see how we've changed the business climate in West Point. and I have the experience to help do that here in Calaveras County.
Okay, thank you. This is another chamber question. Planning staff just recommended denial of Castle and Cook Sawmill project in Copper Office because the county's general plan is still after 7 years inadequate. Is there a moratorium in Calaveras County, or should there be, until the plan is approved? And what will you do to get the general plan legally accepted?
Jeff, can you read the questions louder, please? Or borrow the microphone?
Who else didn't hear it? Read it.
We're going to waste a lot of time. Planning staff recommended denial of Castle and Cook Sawmill project in Copperopolis because the county's general plan is still inadequate after 7 years. Is there a moratorium in Calaveras County, or should there be, until the plan is approved? When will it be approved, and what will you do to make sure it is approved?
Mr. Bryce.
I've been to every board meeting except one since December. I was at the board meeting Tuesday morning, and during public comment I got up and talked about Castle and Cook project. This company knows what they're doing. They helped develop a lot of Danville and Walnut Creek. They built the town center down there in Copperopolis. If you haven't seen it, it's gorgeous. 6 years ago they got approval to start their projects. They've spent over $6 million doing everything the county has asked them to do with their studies and everything. The general plan needs to get done. At that meeting, when I mentioned that we need to work together and let this company start bringing in jobs and tax base and revenue to the county, I was chastised a little bit by Supervisor Walensky, saying I needed to know what I was talking about when I talked about things like this. What more do we need to know than our county is one of the worst economic counties in the state? We have one of the highest unemployment rates. Here we have a company that is willing to spend millions, they already have, to bring jobs into our county, and we're pushing them off. We need to get the general plan done, especially if we're not allowing development to happen because of the general plan. We've got to get it done.
On the sawmill project, it's a very large subdivision down in Copperopolis area. And I have to say that Castle and Cook has done a great job with that development down there. The new town they built down there, a lot of mixed use, a lot of really good looking buildings, and I think they did a good job. And what we need to have some building around that to support the town so it doesn't end up turning into something like Bodie, come see the town that never was down there. So we do need to build around that downtown, new downtown center in Copper. But what we don't need to do is rush headlong into a project that, like Sawmill, that may get held up in litigation. So, but we do need to resolve this, and we need to resolve it quickly. So what I would do is sit down, and there's a few key factors that are holding it up. One of them is the water and CCWD. They've actually allocated more water than they have the ability to serve down there right now. So that's a huge problem going on down there. And we really need to meet with CCWD, Castle and Cook, the planning department, and work that out. There's also issues with mitigation, oak mitigation down there. We can work the oak mitigation out too. There's a very large ranch that already has $1.4 million put aside to preserve that ranch. Now we can sit down and work with Castle and Cook and say, hey, add a little bit more to this and we'll take care of the oak mitigation. So those are issues that can be resolved. But what we don't want to do is approve a project that hasn't really dealt with these issues and then have it litigated and then have our whole general plan come completely apart. We're very close to the finish line now, and it just takes a little bit of cooperation, stepping back, bringing everybody together in the same room and negotiating this out, not pointing fingers, but bringing people together. And that's what I'll do as supervisor.
Thank you.
This next question is, and it's there were 4 or 5 questions about this, so I'll try to summarize. Do you support the increase in the TOT tax? And that has been proposed. And who would it benefit? As far as which groups would it benefit to provide public service?
So the TOT tax is a transient occupancy tax, and basically every time you go spend your evening in the hotel, when you're visiting a place, you get taxed on that. And that money goes back to the county and can be allocated. Right now it's Public Works, Sheriff's, and Calaveras Visitors Bureau is what gets it. It's divided that 3 ways there. The proposal on the table is to increase it by 4%, which is really very low if you compare it to most places in the state. There's been no record of it deterring more tourists coming to your county. It just makes a lot of sense to increase it. It would benefit such things as the library, such things as the fair, things as Humane Society. There would be the Parks and Rec, as well as others. And plus, the good thing about it is that it could also make sure the money in the county from the TOT set aside specifically for the Sheriff's Department, Public Works, and the Calaveras Visitors Bureau. Right now, it's up to the discretion of the Board of Supervisors. Every budget cycle, they can do whatever they want with that money. And so that's why it's really a win-win. It goes to things like the Humane Society, where you really need additional funding coming in. It doesn't hurt anybody here who's living locally, and you know, it's just an overall great thing, no-brainer as far as I'm concerned. I hope everybody does support it.
I went to one of the early meetings for the group trying to put the TOT together and trying to decide how to approach it. They're trying to get it on the ballot for next year. They didn't want to put it on the ballot this year because there's so much other things going on. They didn't want to get it tied up with a bunch of other stuff. And the more I think about it, I'm opposed to it. It's another tax. If we're going to tax the hotels and stuff, let's give the money to them. That's what it's supposed to be for. So I'm opposed to any increase in it.
I usually don't walk like an old man. I got a bad knee. Do you believe most business people in Calaveras County think our county government is business friendly or an impediment to business? If you believe it is an impediment, what could you do to change that?
One of the first things I did when I decided to run was go around in our district and try to meet with every business owner. I know I missed some, and thank goodness there's more out there than I thought. But from talking with them, I get the impression that they feel that the county is not business friendly and our Board of Supervisors is not business friendly. In one of the board meetings a couple of months ago, Supervisor Tryon and Callaway both said that there's nothing wrong with the business climate in our county. I disagree with that strongly. What I would like to see happen is a permanent agenda item on the Board of Supervisors agenda where we talk about the economics in the county. Each supervisor should know what's going on in their district, what new businesses are looking into coming in, what ones have just opened, and how can we help them? How can we help the old businesses that are here, the new ones coming in, and anything else that we can do to help? We've got to look at the fees that we charge. The movie screen fee, movie theater company tried to come into Valley Springs. There's a $170,000 fee in addition to everything else per movie screen. If you put in 5 screens, that's almost $1 million. The company turned around and walked out. We have one movie theater in the whole county. Most of us go out of county to go to the movies, and that's sad. We need to turn that around. And I think we can do it just by focusing on business, focusing on the economics in our county. We currently don't do that at the Board of Supervisors, and I think that's a shame.
Business friendly. Well, I think that we're in really tough economic times right now, so it's hard to really say anything is business friendly right now. So we definitely need to increase our business and our economic activity in the county, and there are several ways to do that. I outlined a few of them a moment ago. One of the key things that we need to look at is how do we speed up our permitting process? How do we streamline our permitting process? And I think across the street here at the hotel is a perfect example of having a one-stop shop, turning over your permit process in 24 hours. So you have cross-training of each of the departments. So anytime you go into the building department and you want to do a small remodel on something, that person understands what all the different departments need from you. So you can literally fill out one permit at one place and be able to process it within a very short period of time. That's one way to really speed up, one very practical way of speeding up the business climate and making it more business friendly. So we're going to go to the map to make sure if you want to open a business here, we want you to open a business tomorrow and not have to go through a lot of bureaucratic nonsense to do it. And I have that planning experience. I used to work as a land use planner for Mendocino County where they were trying to implement that process. And I found it to be a really innovative, really good thing to do. And so that's one example of how we can really help businesses here locally and help the people in this room locally. Another thing is Bryce talks about putting the economic status or the business status on our agenda, standing agenda item, and I think that's a very good idea. What I would do is go one step further and say we really need a good economic development general plan chapter. So we have laid out exactly the different types of things we can be doing. We have benchmarks for those so we can look and see who's supposed to be doing it, and we can have that on each agenda item as well.
Calaveras County has, and I'll just tell you, this is there's several questions here. They're all about watershed and water resources. So I'll just ask one question. You can broaden it up as much as you like. But the question is, Calaveras County has rich water rights and resources. What is the county government, what will you do in county government in cooperation with Calaveras County Water District and other special districts to preserve and develop our county's most important resources? And then there's several other questions about watershed health, so if you can answer them both, that'd be great.
Yeah, well, we are, really blessed to have a lot of water in Calaveras County. If you look at the Stan and the Calaveras River and our own Mokelumne River here, it's really amazing. And we are in really, we're going to lose our water rights if we don't do something about it. And the first thing we have to do is stop infighting. We have to get all of our different water agencies on board with the supervisors. Because, look, we're a small county, 47,000 people roughly. And do you think that the state of California is going to listen to us if we don't have the same message? No way. They're going to just say, well, you lost your water, it's ours. Now we're shipping it to LA. So we have to get together on the same page and really focus on how do we protect our water rights, how do we protect our rivers for future generations. And so I think we should, first step is get together in a room and let's have a summit. Let's really knock this thing out and figure out practical ways of solving our water rights crisis and protecting our rivers and watersheds. One of the things that I like is called the in-stream flow way of protecting your water rights. Right now, the water is going down the rivers. It's benefiting fishing game and recreation as well as power. Why can't we access some of that water as part of our water rights? And we can. In the water code, there's a division that allows us to do that. And that's just one example of innovative ways that we can solve our water rights problem. But first of all, we have to realize that even if we may differ, ideology aside, and infighting amongst departments and organizations, we have to get together, be on the same page, have a united front against interest in Sacramento and LA and beyond, really.
I would put it a little bit different. I would say let's get the Board of Supervisors on board with all the water districts rather than try to get all the water districts on board with the Board of Supervisors. As a county, we are part of the Integrated Regional Water Management Plan for the Mokelumne and the Stanislaus. At the last board meeting, Supervisor Callaway, who goes to the Stanislaus meeting, voiced her opinion that we need to pull out of that organization. They're not getting anything done, and their annual rate to be part of that is $10,000. Went from 5,000 up to 10,000. So she's recommending that we pull out of that. However, on the Mokelumne side, it's a smaller group, and they're getting things done. It's interesting that Chris is for flowing streams when the Foothill Conservancy is supportive of the wild and scenic Mokelumne. The Foothill Conservancy's website brags that they pulled out 3 dams on the Mokelumne. So I don't know how you want to have water rights when you don't let us use the water. Anyway, we need to work together, of course, and we need to do it as a board of supervisors, swallowing their egos and working with these water districts.
Question from the audience here. Would you commit to requiring all department heads to annually set goals and then require a performance report to the Board of Supervisors on how they met those goals?
Yes, I think an annual goal report would be an excellent idea. Our current CAO, Jeannie Boy, says that she will not micromanage our departments, and I'm not sure that needs to happen, but we need to have a little bit better focus on what our departments are doing. In the last 4 years, we've lost 30% of county staff. They've taken roughly a 15% gross pay cut through loss of benefits. None of our department heads that I've been able to find out have taken a pay cut. In fact, they just finalized the budget, and 2 of them got double-figure raises, and we laid more people off. I think that's a shame. We need to control our departments and make sure they're doing what's asked of them, and we need to make sure what we're asking of them and hold them to it. Any job does that in the private sector, so we need to do that here in the county.
Yeah, I think this gets to the question of making government work better, making it more efficient, and making it more accountable to us as the citizens. You really have to develop an attitude of having a customer service attitude at the county. When we go in there, they're providing us with service. And this gets right down to that. First of all, though, I have to say the department heads they're working really hard down at the county. And so are all the people that work for the county. And there's some hard-working people that don't make, for the most part, the department heads accepted maybe, don't make a lot of money. And they work really hard to their bone. And we've cut back. We've gone from something like 525 employees to 400 employees in the last 4 or 5 years. It's been a tremendous drop-off in the amount of employees there. Yet we all still want the same level of service. And so I think getting back to the question, is having reports from the department heads and reports from the CAO are very important. But really, the whole atmosphere has to change as well and have that customer service throughout the county. I definitely would love to see a report from the department heads, especially when it comes to budgeting. There's a lot of little line items that add up to big money. And maybe there's a way that we can go in there and save a little bit more money looking at those line items throughout the budget. But once again, I have to say the county employees and the department heads are working very hard at their job. And I really do appreciate the effort they're putting in there. And I think that we just need to continue to work well as supervisors with our department heads and with the CAO in a cooperative fashion. Thank you.
I'm just going to ask a couple of questions about the general plan. There's a handful of them here. I'll try to summarize. How is the general plan going to affect private property rights? What is your position on that? And then also, if you can fill it in the 2 minutes, how important are the community plans that have been drafted as part of the general plan process? And what role have you played in the community plans?
Well, the general plan is really important to protecting our property rights. We've done an experiment here in Calaveras County that I think we're hopefully coming to the end of. And that is thinking that, well, if we just classify all the land out there as unclassified, then, we'd be free to do whatever we want with our property. And it's actually a failed experiment. We have to plan for your future. You have to plan to protect your property rights, because otherwise they're going to be infringed upon. Every step of the way, you go to do something in your business, or you go to build houses, or you go to make a development in Copperopolis, and you don't have a good general plan, you're in trouble, because there's a lot of laws out there, and there's a lot of complex social things and infrastructure that we have to deal with in a modern society. We have to have a good general plan. And we have to have local citizen input. And that's what the community plans have been really good. I've been involved in many of the community plans during the last 6.5 years here in Calaveras County. And I've witnessed amazing turnout at many of these. In Railroad Flat, a tiny little community, where we had a series of meetings. Hundreds of people came and were involved and put together a great plan. And that plan really helps protect their private property rights as well as the rights of the community, and they get to see where they want to have the community growth go. Not some outside developer coming in, buying up cheap land, and then deciding to turn what we love into something that looks more like El Dorado Hills. And so we have to have good, strong community plans, and we have to have a good, strong general plan. And being from here, being involved in the process, I'm the supervisor that has both the land use planning experience and the community experience to help get that general plan that protects our private property and protects our future.
We've been working on the county has been working on the general plan for I think about 8 years. We've spent $1.5 million with consultants. I think we're on our third planning director. It's a disaster. Rebecca, our current planning director, she's excellent. She's very sharp, and she's working in the direction of the board. There's been a lot of time spent on the community plans. I've only been here full time about 3 years, and I've been focusing on my business, so yes, I was not involved with the community plans, but I support it. What I don't support is the way the current plan is going is they're doing parcel by parcel land use designations. I think that's inappropriate. Parcel by parcel should be done under zoning. If we define parcel by parcel in the land use designation, it's very restrictive on what you can do on your property. If you have to change the zoning, if you want to start a business in your backyard, if you have to change the zoning, it's about $10,000 and about a year of your time. If you have to change the land use, which is the overlay over the zoning, that's an amendment to the general plan. That'll cost you 5 times that in both time and money probably. It's very hard to get an amendment to the general plan. One of the dangers of doing parcel to parcel and being so restrictive on the general plan is if someone has an idea for a business and the only way they can afford to start that is to do it in their backyard, and the land use designation does not allow that, he's done. He can't afford to go buy some property somewhere where it's zoned industrial. A general plan is general by definition. The zoning can help define what you can do in individual parcels. So I think we're trying to be careful with the general plan, but I think we're taking a little too tight of an approach. We're shutting out industry.
Now for an easy question. If and when better access to fast internet will be implemented, what is your reaction or position regarding multiplication of cell towers, relay towers in the area and its impact on the environment?
Cell towers are ugly. I mean, there's no way around that. If we put them in locations where we can kind of hide them, that's great. But if you want the communication, we have to have the cell towers. There's no two ways about it. Our technology is increasing. Some of us have DSL, some of us still don't. Cell towers will make that a little bit easier for a lot of us. We are in a very rugged, diverse area, and if cell tower technology is the way that we bring everyone on board, then I say let's go for it. but we gotta be careful in where we put them, and they are ugly, so let's try to put them in areas that hide them a little bit.
Yeah, it's kind of astounding. If you do have DSL, you kind of take it for granted that everybody has it. What I've learned going out, knocking on people's doors throughout the county, and there's lots of places that do not have DSL or any type of high-speed internet. And so it's really critical to our, not only our individual use, but also to small cottage industries to have that access. Happy Valley Road here in Moke Hill doesn't have high-speed internet, and I just found that kind of amazing. So we need to really get together, set up a committee with people like Ron Mobley and others to work on, finalizing the problems that we have and getting the high-speed internet infrastructure up and running throughout the county and the cell service. This can be done. It's an accomplishable goal, and we can do it within my first term of office there. So if anybody wants to sign up for that committee, let me know, and we'll get that rolling. I think it's critical that we have cell service and high-speed internet throughout the county. It's possible, and let's do it. Another thing I wanted to bring back on what Bryce was saying on the cottage industries. The general plan land use designation, the draft plan, has several designations throughout it that allow for cottage industries and for small businesses. It's built into the fabric of our community at the planning process and throughout that we can do small businesses at our home. So we can plan for that, Bryce, and we can say where we want that to happen. Mostly throughout the county. We're looking at working lands designation, rural transitional 1 and 2. All have a general plan designation allowing for cottage industry. So there's a lot of openness there. All right, well, thank you very much.
We are currently experiencing negative growth in Calaveras County for the first time in decades. How can you maintain or provide an acceptable level of public safety with a declining budget? I think this question basically is saying, how do you prioritize funds to enhance public safety?
Well, yeah, this is definitely a tough one. Unfortunately, though, recently the sheriff was able to bring on 3 additional deputies, and so that is a really positive step forward. And then if we can get the Sheriff Gary to get those resident deputies or get those deputies as resident deputies up in our substations here in Moke Hill, substation up in West Point and Mountain Ranch, you have an on-the-ground presence of a sheriff there in town. It really helps with the whole idea that you're not that far out. The sheriff is only a few minutes away if he's down in West Point. If you're going to think about committing a crime, it really helps with the whole public safety feeling of knowing the sheriff's right down the road. There's a response time, and so we are getting the funding right now back to hire those deputies, and now it's a matter of convincing Gary to get those deputies to District 2. And I'll definitely, every time I see him, I bug him about it, and I will once again. The other thing is we need to work on more neighborhood watch programs. I know it's a tough thing to say when you're talking about crime, but really neighborhood watch, having eyes on the road, really decreases crime tremendously. So each neighborhood can work with the sheriff's department. If you go online, that is if you're lucky enough to have high-speed internet. If you go online, you can connect with the sheriff's department. They'll come out, help you set up a neighborhood watch in your program. And that combined with the sheriffs at these substations is going to go a long way to really making people feel safe in their homes. And then you can also make sure that you, if you feel comfortable, you have access to a firearm. That is always, something growing up here I've always had, and it's just been part of my culture. So that may work for some people as well.
I've met with a number of the deputy sheriffs. I've done a couple ride-alongs with them. I know how frustrated they are with, I think they've lost 17 people, and then, they just pick 3 back up. But it's frustrating too, and it's a big drill in the budget process. The substation I did, resident deputies, That sounds great, but we typically only have 3 deputies on the streets in the county at one time. So if that resident deputy is on duty, he's not spending his whole time in West Point. He's going to be wherever he needs to be in the county. When the shooting happened up in Arnold a couple of months ago, his backup came from Moke Hill. If I was a deputy, that would frighten me to know that I'm involved in a shooting and my backup is 45 minutes away. Neighborhood watch is probably the best thing that we can do with the limited budget that we have. We do have a lot of volunteer deputies. If we can get some more volunteer resident deputies, that would help out. That would give us a little bit of presence with a police car or a sheriff's car in our cities. It's a big problem. We've got to ensure our safety, and the sheriff's department is strapped. They do a great job with what they have. There's a lot of things that we can do to help the sheriff's department with their budget. One board meeting, they came in and asked for, I think it was $120,000 for 3 new vehicles. The next meeting, they came in and asked for $17,000 to repair the antennas that had been hit by lightning. Both times, there were 4 sheriff deputies, senior officers in that boardroom begging for money when we only have 3 out on the streets. We need to work with that a little bit and try to get them on the street and do whatever we can to help them with their budget so they don't have to sit there and beg money.
Are you familiar with Agenda 21? If so, do you support it as pertaining to District 2 and the rest of the county?
Agenda 121 is a big item for a lot of people. I know Chris in the past doesn't want to talk about it. If you don't know about it, you need to go look it up. It's a socialist movement, started in the UN. I don't even remember the year, but it was adopted by the UN, and a lot of the language that is used in that is found here in our county. I'm not saying there's UN people running around in our county, but if that philosophy is making its way in our county, we need to stop it. I don't want to see a socialist movement here in our county.
Well, Bryce, well, we definitely agree there. That's for sure. As far as the Agenda 21 goes, it really it's a UN agenda, and it basically is looking at sustainability and how do we meet the goals and how do we meet the population is increasing throughout the world, and we have limited resources. How do we deal with that? And that's what the UN Agenda 21 is looking at. And so to take it and blow it out of proportion as some type of grand socialist movement, I think it's just dead wrong. And plus, even spending this little bit of time, one of the reasons I don't want to talk about it, Bryce, is because it's not a non-issue. I mean, we need to keep talking about how do we get funding for the sheriffs? How do we crack down on methamphetamine and crime use? I mean, those are important use of our time in this room. I mean, if you look at meth alone, you're talking about 60% of the child protective services are linked, the cases are directly linked to meth use. We haven't even addressed meth at all tonight. How are we going to get rid of meth in our community? There's been 28 arrests in the last month and a half alone here in District 2. And now that's a good start because we've cracked down and maybe we will finally hit that magic point, that tipping point where we can eliminate methamphetamine from our communities. But I'd much rather talk about how to get rid of meth than ever talk about Agenda 21, which is a non-issue as far as I'm concerned.
Okay, this was mentioned earlier, but I think it's still an important question. The rent fees for some businesses like a theater, which are over $170,000 per screen, seem to not make sense and are a deterrent to new business. As today, most of District 2 residents must drive 30 miles plus on our county roads to see a movie. If a theater was located in Calaveras County, they would travel less on the roads to see a movie. Do you believe the rent fees are fair?
Let me jump back to Agenda 21 for just a second. If a constituent,
It's his time. It's his time.
If constituents want to talk about 21, I think we should talk about 21. It's important to them, so let's talk about it, work it out. I think the rent fees for the theater are totally inappropriate. If we've got a business coming in and they're willing to come in here and spend money and open business, make employment, we need to talk with them. We need to work out whatever it takes to help them get in. There's a lot of, the rent fees, if you don't understand the rent fees, they're the road impact mitigation fees. So if they calculate how much new traffic a business will bring in and then what they're going to have to do to improve those roads. So if a movie theater's going to bring in, you know, so much business, then they feel like they've got to charge this much to handle the improvements on the road. We need to take a careful look at everything that we do and make sure that it makes sense with every business that's coming in. I don't think any of us want a mall at every corner. I don't think any of us want that. But there's no such thing as a steady economy. We're either going down or we're going up. We're going down right now, and we see the result with our services going away. Every budget year, the county has to cut and fight and try to come up with innovative solutions to make things work with what money we have. The only way we can increase the tax base without raising taxes is increase our business revenue.
Yeah, once again, the rent fees is part of a larger discussion of planning and development and growth and development in Calaveras County and the history of it. For many, many years, I think it was 16 years, we did not collect rent fees under the illusion that if we just had no rent fees, then people would flock to Calaveras County and we'd have great growth and development everywhere. And just to the north of us a little bit, El Dorado County, $12,000 a few years ago for their rent fees. And you know, they had a tremendous amount of growth in economic development. Probably too much growth for my taste, really. But it does not reflect on the rent fees as a standalone thing you can pull out of the greater planning world and say, well, if we eliminated rent fees and we eliminated all government regulation, then suddenly we'd have growth and development in Calaveras. Well, in Calaveras, especially in District 2, we have had that experiment. We've had almost no government intervention at all, and yet we're still where we are now. And we're now luckily heading in the right direction. So what we need is we need a good general plan, and not only that, we need to make sure our infrastructure is in the right place. Once again, getting back to we need to work across the board with all the different sewer and water departments throughout the county, working with the land use department and the county government. Because, you know, the example here is McDonald's, right? McDonald's in San Andreas was ready to go. They had the right zoning. Everything was fine, except for nobody had talked to CCWD, and they wanted an outrageous amount of money to connect with McDonald's, so McDonald's left. But that happened because we didn't have a good plan in place, and we didn't have good communication and cooperation across the county board, and that's what we really need to look at, not just point out the rent fees. I think the rent fees are something you can tinker with, but you really need a bigger look at the whole process.
Okay, do you support encouraging Targets and Walmarts to locate in Calaveras County? Also, Tractor Supply just opened in Jackson. Why do you think they chose Amarillo County instead of Calaveras County?
Yeah, you know, as far as the Tractor Supply, that's pretty cool. You know, just down the road, I have to say. I know a lot of friends who really like tractors. So, yeah, it would have been great to have it, you know, down here at the corner of 26 and 49. You know, maybe have to fit into the community plan. But you know, look, we have to get back to what I was talking about before. We have to make sure we have the infrastructure in place. We have to make sure we have the plans in place. Because you can't just go sticking a Target out in the middle of nowhere. You know, there has to be all the infrastructure that connects it. So we have to work together to make sure that zoning, the general plan designation, and everything else lines up with the infrastructure. And then we can talk about having a Target, or we can talk about having a Tractor Supply store. I do have to agree with Cliff Edson over here, who's running for in the county, I would stick it over there in Coloradopolis somewhere. So that's my 2 cents there. Thanks.
Yeah, I'm not sure I know anyone that would want a Walmart or Kmart here in Moke Hill or any of our small communities. That's not what we're after. Going back to the general plan, if we make a general plan and we don't allow for a business to pop up where it needs to pop up, we're going to shut it out. We're going to make it impossible for them to come in. We've got to be flexible with the general plan. We've got to be careful that we don't paint ourselves into corners so we don't allow any development in. The city of Auburn in this economy did a 21% increase in their revenue, and all they did was do a shop local campaign. Where did we shop? Walmart. You know, from the experience with my business, watching all the cars go out of county to jobs and to shop. We've got to figure out a way to bring business in without destroying our way of life and our rural setting. And I think we can do that with a lot more small businesses. Where do you shop for shoes here? Where do you shop for pants or shirts? We need to be able to encourage businesses that will come in and do what we can to help them get started here in the county. Otherwise, our option is Walmart and Kmart. We've got to turn it around.
Well, let me look here real quick. We're getting down to the really good stuff. What is your definition of a republic?
My definition of a republic would be the United States of America, where we have the freedom to choose and to do a lot of the things that we like to do. I'm very much opposed to organizations that come in and try to protect the open space if it's my open space. I don't want a group of people who don't own the land trying to tell me what I can do with my land. The Board of Supervisors is working, and I think they passed the noise ordinance. The board meeting Tuesday, they want to add a section in there to control shooting of guns. They want to separate shooting guns from noise, and I don't know how you do that. Supervisor Walensky mentioned, well, we need to do it under land use controls. Land use controls for shooting my weapon. That's one of the things that we love up here is the ability to go shoot our weapons and enjoy that type of sport. I'm opposed to these organizations that want to define the type of business that I can do on my property. If my property is not the type of business that I want to open, if it's not injuring my neighbors, not devaluing their property, then I should be able to do that. To me, that's a republic, the ability to be free and to do what we want without injuring other people.